Failing marriage advice. You need some failing marriage advice. First, my name is Paul Friedman. I'm the founder of the Marriage Foundation, and I can help you. The foundation is nonprofit. We're here to see if we can't get your marriage back on track. Now, the first step is to determine whether your marriage is really failing. You know, there was a movie many years ago called The Princess Bride. It's a great movie, classic. And there was a scene where the hero was dead. But they brought the dead hero to a magical guy, Billy Crystal, and he was supposed to bring him back to life. And they said, well, he's dead. He says, he's dead? Maybe he's not dead. Maybe he's mostly dead. How do you know? And so he brought him back to life. And that should be an inspiration to you. And you should acknowledge that you don't know enough about marriages to determine that your marriage is going to die. Failing? Sure. Most marriages in the world, in the Western world, are failing because people have no idea how to make them good, how to make them what they're supposed to be. You got married to be happier. You got married for love. There were all these other reasons too, but those two are the main reasons. To be happier? Why shouldn't you be? And to experience not just love, but unconditional love. So you got to admit, most marriages are failing. Trouble is, we don't have any education as we're growing up to tell us what we should look out for. We know if we get a car what to look out for. If we get a house, an apartment, a plant, everything material, we know how to determine whether it's successful or failing. And we know what to do to make it successful. We also know, and this is an interesting fact, most people get married and they see marriage as a destination. They're not thinking that, like everything else in the world, nothing stays the same. You don't get to the mountaintop with marriage. It's supposed to be ever-expanding happiness, ever-expanding love. And you have to do things to make it so. Look, even if you get a really nice dress, it has to be maintained. You may have to steam out the wrinkles. You may have to get it dry cleaned. It doesn't just stay there. Why would you think your marriage would be fine without any kind of maintenance? And now when I bring it up, it's totally logical, right? But we don't know that getting into marriage. We go, okay, I'm married, woo! So let's get rid of this idea that your marriage is failing and therefore it's on its way to oblivion. Let's change our perspective and let's go, the marriage is failing because we didn't know what we were doing. No blame, no bad. Now let's learn to do what we need to do. So I gave you the two main important principles that you need to hold on to in terms of what your marriage needs in terms of maintenance. They're like, I call them the twin pole stars for marriage. Happiness and love, unconditional love. And you, because you have free will as an individual, have the ability, if not the obligation, to add those two things to your marriage all the time. You know, some people write in, because we have a free service with our counselors, they'll write in and they'll go, what's wrong with my marriage? My husband or my wife isn't doing anything. Yeah, we have fights, but the arguments aren't so bad, but they're too often. And hold up. Why would you put in fights, arguments, when the twin pole stars are telling you you have to put in love and happiness? Doesn't make sense, right? Okay, another way to look at this is your marriage is a container that only has two people in it, you and your spouse. What you put into this container, 100% is all that will be in there. You put in honey, sugar, it's sweet. You put in arguing, complaining, condemnation, I told you so's, teasing. It contaminates the marriage. These are the things you need to learn about marriage. But right from today, instead of thinking, I have a failing marriage, change your perspective and say, I've got an amazing marriage that I have not been taking care of. And I'm going to learn how. Now, there's different degrees of failing marriages. After I just told you not to see your own marriage that way. But this is the advice, right? There are some where you go, things are just not moving in the right direction. It's failing. It's failing because it's not producing those two things that I signed up for when I got married. Well, easy. Unfortunately, most of the marriage books out there are sort of entertainment. I wrote a couple of marriage books that are more like manuals, marriage manuals. One is Lessons for a Happy Marriage, and one is Breaking the Cycle, which is a little more advanced. These give you schematics, they give you ideas, they give you ways, strong, clear-cut suggestions, and the reason why the suggestions are there, so that you could, on your own, turn your marriage around. And you may say at this point, because the truth is, 80% of the time at least, and I made up that statistic because there's no study, but at least 80% of the time, only one of the partners is ready to really invest in the repairing, the transformation of the marriage. But that shouldn't hold you back, because over the decades, I can tell you for sure, if just one of you is doing the work, the marriage will transform. Into what? It'll transform into the happiest part of your life, which is what it's supposed to be. Now, so that's for a marriage that's crumbling, but it's not sliding off the cliff. It's not rapidly descending towards separation and divorce. The solution for those marriages that have gone too far, we have courses. Now, in these courses, the first step, and I say courses because not that there's a lot of courses to choose from, it's based on your gender. If you're the husband, you get the course for men. If you're the wife, you get the course for women. It's gender-based. So what these courses do is they start out with a very important thing, which is to learn about your mind, about who you are, so that you can control your mind. Because probably the biggest problem that people have when they go to heal their marriage is they get it They know what they're supposed to do, but their habits and their emotions and their inner reactions prevent them from execution, from application. So the very first step is learning how to control that mind. It's a possession. You're not your mind, you have one. And you're supposed to control it. You're not supposed to be beaten up by your emotions. You're certainly not supposed to let your emotions beat up your partner or anyone else for that matter. So that's the first step. And it's a very important step. If your marriage is sliding towards divorce, that's a very, very important step. And although it's covered in the books, in the chapters on the mind, it's covered lightly, and you may not benefit from it to the same degree as if you take the course. So, here's the thing. One, my advice, don't give up. Start getting suggestions right into our counselors. See what they say. Maybe your marriage is going to fail. Very, very few do. But maybe circumstances sometimes you just can't get around them. But they're rare. There are circumstances like I discovered my husband has been on male dating sites and he's told me that he's going to have male lovers. Well, you can't save that marriage. Another example is that a wife cheats on her husband and then she's mad at him and she rubs it in his nose. I finally found someone who could satisfy me. Wow, it happens. He's destroyed. And he finally goes, I'm out of here. And she says, oh, no, I changed my mind. You're the man of my dreams. We can't save those marriages because of what happens. But we'll let you know. But in most cases, don't forget about giving up. Don't give up, but get educated. Unfortunately, the societal knowledge about marriage is so ridiculously wrong that you're not going to get much help in most places. We get a lot of people who have come to us after they've gone through therapy, and they say, well, we've tried everything. We tried therapy. And the therapist said this, and the therapist said that. And I just shake my head. You know, I know a lot about therapists because I used to be a divorce mediator before I started healing marriages, very successfully in Southern California, in San Diego. And all of my referrals came from psychologists, marriage counselors, who failed. So they didn't know what they were doing. I look back at all my cases that I can remember. I can't think of one that I couldn't have saved. So forget about giving up. Instead, get educated the right way about what marriage is, about who you are, who your spouse is, what the marriage is, how you're supposed to get these two visions of joy, happiness and unconditional love. I came to a conclusion. You know, the world, people in the world, we're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. If we get into the right lane, think about it. The mind's going, oh my God, you know, the cashier's going to go on break. There's always that negative influence in our mind. It's part of our drive to survive that the body has. I've turned it around in my own mind, and I try to teach others how to do that. When the thought comes into the mind that's negative, just push it out. It's your mind. You don't have to entertain a thought just because it pops up. You deserve, you're a human being. You're very advanced spiritually. You're advanced and you deserve to have happiness, joy, floating kind of joy. And love, unconditional love, that's your very nature as a soul. You should have that. And a marriage is a beautiful institution in which you can develop these things. It's so beautiful. So don't give up. Get yourself educated. Look, you could subscribe to my channel. There's lots of videos. They're all positive. And I hope you like this one. I'm going to end this on that note with blessings to you, blessings to your spouse, and blessings to your family. You can have an amazing marriage. It's not too late. All right. God bless.